Working since 15. Never asked for a dime and still paid off. My own education. I built my own business from nothing. Got sued by my parents for refusing to fund my sister's influencer career. TLDR. Worked my tail off since 15. Built successful construction business. Family sued me for 50% because I wouldn't bankroll my gold digger sister's fake influencer lifestyle. Universe served them the coldest revenge possible. What's up, Reddit? Long-time lurker. First time posting something this personal. I'm still processing what happened and figured you guys might appreciate this justice story. Fair warning, this gets wild and the ending is satisfying as heck. I, 31 male, and this mess started when I was about 12. For context, I grew up in suburban Phoenix in a middle-class family that looked normal from outside, but was completely dysfunctional behind closed doors. This is about family favoritism, entitlement, and what happens when spoiled brats try to lawyer their way into other people's success. We lived in a decent neighborhood, nothing fancy but respectable. Dad, Robert, made $50,000 fixing Toyotas. Mom, Patricia, did part-time bookkeeping for $20,000. Then there's my sister Brittany, 6 years younger, and the undisputed golden child of our family. From day one, Brittany could literally break something expensive, and my parents would blame me for not watching her carefully enough. She was daddy's little princess, while I was just the responsible kid who took out trash and kept his mouth shut. When I was 12, Brittany started dance and pageants. The money they dropped was insane. $300 costumes worn once, $500 pageant dresses for competitions she rarely placed in, $75 per hour coaches, $400 photo shoots every few months. We're talking thousands monthly on this spoiled brat. The pageant circuit was like a cult. Brittany absorbed the toxic environment and started acting already famous, practicing her interview walk around the house and demanding special meals because pageant girls have to watch their figure. Me? I asked for a $20 video game and got lectured about being grateful and money not growing on trees. By 13, our room situation said everything. Brittany had custom princess pink furniture, giant flat screen with every streaming service, walk-in closet full of designer clothes. My room had a squeaky Walmart twin bed, broken secondhand dresser, and garage sale everything. The breaking point came at 14. I wanted to join wrestling team. $150 for gear and fees. Dad looked at me like I'd asked for a sports car. Jake, we can't afford that. Money's tight with Brittany's competitions. That same week, they spent $800 on her new dance outfit because the old one was last season. That's when I realized I was invisible, unless they needed someone to blame. So I made my own way. Started cutting lawns for $20 to $30 each, got 8 regular customers, found an old guy who needed handyman help around rental properties. He taught me construction, plumbing, electrical, real skills that would actually matter. This neighbor became the dad I never had, paying me $12 an hour while explaining business, saving money, building something real. Most kids your age worry about video games, he'd say, installing flooring. You're learning to build a future. Meanwhile, Princess Brittany got worse. One competition, she placed 3rd out of 12 and had a complete meltdown about judges not understanding her vision and her costume not being sparkly enough. My parents spent the drive home planning what they'd buy to boost her confidence. When I turned 16, I'd saved enough for a beat-up F-150, $3,500 cash, plus insurance and gas. Dad's first comment? Hope you're not planning to neglect chores now that you have wheels? No congratulations. Just immediate assumption I'd become irresponsible. That same month, they bought Brittany a brand new $18,000 Honda Civic for her birthday. She didn't even have her permit yet, but they wanted her to have reliable transportation. The car sat untouched for 2 months. Every slight, every dollar spent on her while ignoring my needs, it all went into my mental fuel tank. Junior year, I worked full-time for my neighbor after school and weekends. The work was brutal. Drywall in cramped spaces, painting houses in summer heat, installing flooring on my knees for hours. But I loved learning real skills. He bumped me to $15 an hour and taught me the business side, estimating jobs, ordering materials, dealing with suppliers. You've got a natural head for this, Jake, he'd say, installing cabinets. You could run your own operation someday. Despite working 25-plus hours weekly, I maintained solid grades, A's and B's. I'd do homework in my truck during lunch, study while eating dinner, write papers late at night covered in sawdust. Brittany, meanwhile, discovered social media and decided she was going to be an influencer. At 13, 14, she'd spend hours taking selfies, making TikTok videos with maybe 20 views, begging my parents for money for content. This girl had 200 followers, but acted like the next big thing. She'd order $500 worth of clothes online, photograph them with elaborate lighting setups, then return half claiming they didn't photograph well. My parents called this entrepreneurial spirit. She developed this whole online persona posting quotes about living your best life and manifesting success, while doing literally nothing except taking pictures. Her captions were filled with hashtags like influencer life blessed entrepreneur when she'd never earned a dollar. Worse was her attitude toward peasants, anyone she considered beneath her, including me. I'd come home exhausted from real work, and she'd make comments like, "You, Jake, you smell like poor people," or "I can't wait to move out so I don't have to see you looking like a homeless person." One time, after 12 hours installing hardwood floors, barely able to walk, she wrinkled her nose. "Could you at least shower before dinner? Some of us have standards." This from someone who'd spent the day taking backyard selfies. My parents encouraged it. "Brittany's just confident," Mom would say. "She knows her worth." Senior year, I'd saved $12,000 and planned community college first, then transfer to state university. Smart, cost-effective plan that would leave me under $20,000 in debt. Brittany, now a sophomore with a 2.3 GPA, announced she wanted some expensive California art school for social media marketing. Not for education, but because it would be good for her brand. When acceptances came, I got into state university with a partial academic scholarship covering 40% of costs. My parents' reaction? "That's nice, Jake." That was it. Same week, Brittany got waitlisted, and they spent $2,000 on a college consultant, charging $200 per hour to edit her Instagram posts and write essays about her digital marketing experience. The final insult came at graduation dinner. Dad dropped the bomb. "Jake, we think you should contribute $400 monthly for room and board when you're home from college. $400 a month to live in my childhood bedroom while working full-time to pay for my own education." Meanwhile, they were planning to spend $65,000 annually on Princess Brittany's college without expecting any contribution from her. I told them I'd think about it, but I was already making other plans. I went to State University with a clear plan. Business degree with construction technology minor, then start my own company. College was financially brutal, even with my scholarship and savings. I worked 20 hours weekly at campus restaurant washing dishes, full-time with my neighbor during breaks on complex renovations. No spring break trips, no party lifestyle, just work, study, repeat. While other students slept until noon, I was up at 6 a.m. for opening shifts. While they hit happy hours, I studied in the library until closing. Meanwhile, Brittany was living her best life at her overpriced art school. My parents dropped $65,000 annually on her digital media communications degree, basically Instagram studies. Every visit home, she'd brag about designer clothes for networking events, $300 brunch spreads for content creation, spring break trips to Cabo that cost more than my entire semester budget. All funded by Mom and Dad, who were draining retirement savings and taking plus loans. "My followers love seeing authentic college experience," she'd say, showing photos of her ridiculous brunches. "Brands want someone who actually lives the lifestyle they're promoting." Her follower count had grown to maybe 2,000. Mostly bought bots with tiny sponsorship deals. $50 for sketchy teeth whitening products, $75 for protein shakes she never drank. She was spending roughly $200 for every dollar earned, but convinced herself this was building her brand. When I pointed out she spent more on coffee than she made from sponsorships, she'd roll her eyes. "Jake, you don't understand business. This is investment in my personal brand. You have to spend money to make money." Right. Spending $200 on dinner for 50 likes was definitely solid business strategy. Junior year, I started taking small construction jobs independently. Bathroom renovations, deck repairs, small additions. My neighbor let me use his tools and supplier connections in exchange for helping with bigger projects. I was making $25 to $30 hourly and learning every business aspect. One bathroom gut job for a young couple really opened my eyes. 3 weeks of work, they paid me $8,500 for materials and subcontractor fees that cost maybe $3,000. Even after paying my neighbor for tools and advice, I cleared over $4,000 in 3 weeks. That's when I realized construction's real profit potential. My family relationship was basically non-existent. I'd come home for holidays and they'd spend the entire time discussing Brittany's career and education costs. Mom would show me Brittany's Instagram posts like gallery art. I was invisible unless they needed repairs. Garbage disposal breaks? Call Jake. Leaky faucet? Jake will handle it. The breaking point came Christmas of junior year. I'd maintained a 3.6 GPA, while working 25 hours weekly. Exhausted but proud, looking forward to relaxing. Christmas morning, Brittany opened thousands in presents. MacBook Pro for professional content creation, designer handbags for brand partnerships, jewelry for sponsored posts, expensive skincare for beauty collaborations. Everything justified as business expenses. My gift? $50 Home Depot gift card and lecture about not expecting handouts now that I was adult. Then Brittany made the comment that changed everything. At least Jake is finally learning a trade, she smirked, taking selfies with her haul, planning her Christmas unboxing post. Someone has to be the worker bee while the rest of us become successful. Worker bee. To my face. On Christmas morning, while opening presents worth more than I made in 3 months. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to say something. Anything. They just sat there like this was normal. That was it. I was done. I finished college with minimal family contact, became a polite stranger. My neighbor wanted to sell his business at huge discount. We arranged a 5-year buyout deal where I'd take over all contracts and relationships. By graduation, everything was lined up. Business loan approved, licensing handled, insurance sorted. 3 major summer contracts worth over $45,000. Brittany graduated the same year with her useless degree and moved home, announcing she'd focus full-time on her influencer career while needing parental support to build her brand. At 22, she had maybe 5,000 followers, half bots. No real income besides occasional $50 sponsorship deals, an entitlement that would make royalty jealous. Me? I had a business plan and skills to execute it. Right out of college, I hit ground running with my construction business. My neighbor had set me up perfectly. I inherited his crew of 3 experienced guys who'd been working with him for years, his supplier relationships that got me contractor discounts, and solid reputation in local market built over 20 years. First year was brutal, working 70 to 80-hour weeks learning how to manage employees who were older and more experienced than me, dealing with difficult clients who tried to change project scope midway through, handling all business admin stuff like payroll, taxes, insurance claims, and permit applications. But it was my business. Every dollar I made, every relationship I built, every success was mine. When client was happy with finished bathroom renovation, they were praising my work. When referral led to bigger project, it was because of reputation I was building. Within 6 months, I was booking out 3 weeks in advance. Word of mouth in construction is everything, and my guys did quality work fast. We specialized in residential renovations, kitchens that transformed outdated spaces into modern showpieces, bathrooms that went from cramped disasters to spa-like retreats, additions that seamlessly blended with existing architecture, whole house remodels that doubled property values. Meanwhile, Princess Brittany was struggling with reality. Turns out having 5,000 fake followers doesn't translate to actual income. Who could have seen that coming? She'd wake up at noon, spend 3 hours doing her makeup and picking outfits for content shoots, take 500 photos to post one candid shot, then complain that brands weren't taking her seriously. Her biggest sponsorship deal was $200 for promoting some multi-level marketing skincare crap that probably contained more chemicals than actual beneficial ingredients. Her daily routine was pathetic to watch. She'd set up elaborate photo shoots in our backyard using bed sheets as backdrops, take hundreds of photos in slightly different poses, then spend hours editing them with filters and apps that made her barely recognizable. All this effort for posts that got maybe 100 likes, mostly from other wannabe influencers doing follow-for-follow schemes. But instead of getting real job or reassessing her life choices, she doubled down on delusion. She convinced my parents to fund professional photo shoot, $2,500, website redesign, $1,800, and some social media management course, $3,200, taught by someone who probably had fewer real followers than she did. I just need to invest more in my brand, she'd say while eating cereal at 2 p.m. All successful influencers say you have to spend money to make money. It's about playing long game. My parents somehow bought into this nonsense. They were still paying her phone bill, car insurance, health insurance, plus giving her $1,200 a month in living expenses while she lived at home rent-free. They'd rationalized it as supporting her during launch phase of her business. They'd even converted garage into content studio for her, complete with ring lights, backdrop stands, professional camera equipment, and climate control so she could shoot year-round. Another $4,000 down drain for what was essentially elaborate playroom for grown woman. Worst part was listening to her talk about money, like she had any clue what work was. She'd see my dirty work clothes and truck and make comments like, "When I'm successful, I'll hire people like Jake to fix my mansions." It's important to support blue-collar workers. Or she'd complain about brands not paying her enough. These companies are so cheap. They only want to pay me 100 for post when I have almost 8,000 followers now. She'd bought another 3,000 fake followers, thinking nobody would notice the sudden spike in followers with zero engagement. Meanwhile, I was making more in a week than she'd made all year from her career. By end of my second year in business, I was pulling in 180,000 annually and had expanded a crew of 6 guys. I bought my first house, 1,800 square foot ranch, that I renovated myself using skills I'd learned over years. Nothing fancy, but it was mine and paid off in 3 years through aggressive extra payments. The renovation was my masterpiece. Gutted kitchen and installed custom cabinets, completely redid both bathrooms with high-end fixtures, refinished all hardwood floors, updated electrical and plumbing throughout. House went from dated 1980s mess to modern showcase that would have cost someone else $150,000 to achieve. Year 3. I landed contract to renovate high-end neighborhood development. 12 custom homes, complete gut renovations for wealthy clients who wanted everything perfect. Contract was worth $850,000 over 8 months. More money than I'd ever imagined making. That's when my family's attitude started changing. Suddenly, Jake wasn't just worker bee anymore. Dad started asking about my business, wanting to know how much money I was making, suddenly interested in construction industry. Mom would brag to her friends about her successful entrepreneur son, like she'd always supported my career. And Brittany? She went from insulting my work to trying to get me to fund her schemes. Jake, you should sponsor one of my posts, she'd say while I was eating lunch covered in sawdust from morning job. I could promote your business to my followers. It would be great cross-promotion. Her followers were mostly bots, fake accounts from overseas, and middle-aged perverts commenting fire emojis on her thirst traps. Real valuable demographic for residential construction targeting affluent homeowners. When I politely declined, she'd get pissy. You're so selfish. I'm trying to help you grow your business and you won't even support your own sister. Family is supposed to help family. Entitlement was unreal. This girl had never worked real day in her life, was completely supported by our parents at 25, and thought I owed her free marketing just because we shared DNA. Things got worse when she started dating this loser named Chad, who was supposedly crypto entrepreneur. Translation: unemployed guy who lost his trust fund gambling on digital coins and now lived with his parents while pretending to be business mogul. Chad convinced her she needed to level up her brand and think bigger. Chad was everything you'd expect. Backwards baseball cap, designer clothes bought with credit cards, constant name-dropping of successful people he'd supposedly met, and philosophy that traditional jobs are for sheep. He'd never held job for more than 6 months but considered himself expert on building wealth. They came up with this brilliant plan to start YouTube channel about luxury lifestyle on budget, where they'd review expensive restaurants, hotels, and products. The catch? They needed funding to maintain lifestyle they'd be reviewing. Their logic was flawless. They'd spend my money living luxuriously, document it for YouTube, become famous influencers, then pay me back from their earnings. What could go wrong? Brittany asked my parents for $15,000 to launch channel properly. When they couldn't afford it, shocking, considering they'd already blown their retirement savings on her college, she came to me. Jake, this is real business opportunity, she explained with PowerPoint presentation she'd obviously spent weeks on. Chad and I have whole thing planned out. We just need initial investment to cover expenses for first 6 months. You'd basically be angel investor. I asked to see their business plan. Their business plan was PowerPoint with stock photos and vague promises about monetization. No market research, no realistic revenue projections, no understanding of how YouTube actually works, or how long it takes to build audience. We don't need all that corporate stuff, Chad said, dismissing my questions with wave of his hand. Social media is about authenticity and vibes. You can't put vibes in spreadsheet. Right. I told them I wasn't interested. That's when Real Brittany came out. After I turned down Brittany's ridiculous YouTube scheme, family dynamics completely shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't successful, brother. They wanted to brag about. I was selfish jerk who was holding back family. Harassment started small. Brittany would make passive-aggressive comments about how some people forget where they came from and how real family supports each other's dreams. She'd post cryptic social media stories about fake people and blood being thicker than water until money gets involved. Then it escalated. She started posting subtle digs on social media about fake family members and people who get successful and abandon their loved ones. Her dozen real followers ate it up, commenting supportive messages about cutting toxic people out of your life, without knowing they were talking about her own brother. My parents joined pressure campaign. Dad would call asking for business advice, but really just fishing for information about my finances. How much did I charge per job? What were my profit margins? How much did I have saved? All innocent questions that felt like interrogation. Mom would guilt trip me about how disappointed they were that I wasn't helping Brittany achieve her potential. She'd compare me to other successful siblings who lifted up their families and hint that maybe I'd forgotten where I came from. Breaking point came at Thanksgiving dinner. I'd been working nonstop on major project, complete home renovation that required 12-hour days for 3 weeks straight, and was exhausted, but I showed up to try to keep some semblance of family relationship. Brittany spent entire meal talking about her upcoming projects and how she just needed one big break to become successful. Chad nodded along, occasionally throwing in buzzwords like synergy and viral potential, while contributing nothing useful to conversation. She'd prepared whole presentation about their YouTube idea, complete with competitor analysis, aka watching other YouTubers for few hours, and revenue projections, completely made up numbers. They'd calculated they could make $50,000 per month within 6 months if they had proper funding. Then she turned to me. Jake, I've been thinking about what you said about needing business plan. What if we made this family business? You could be financial backer, I'd be creative director, and we could split profits. What profits? I asked. You've been doing this for 5 years and haven't made enough to cover your Starbucks budget. Her face went red. That's because I haven't had proper funding. Do you know how much money I could be making if I had resources to create quality content? Look at other influencers. They all had family support or rich boyfriends. I've been doing this on my own. Brittany, you're 25 years old and have never had real job. Maybe start with something realistic before planning your media empire. That's when she exploded. Realistic? You mean like getting my hands dirty doing manual labor? Like being construction worker my whole life? I have talent, Jake. I have potential. Just because you're content being blue-collar, nobody doesn't mean I should settle for mediocrity. Room went silent. Even Chad looked uncomfortable. Dad cleared his throat. Jake, that was uncalled for. Brittany is pursuing her passion. Her passion! Dad, you and Mom have spent over $300,000 supporting her passion, and she's made maybe $2,000 total. At what point do we call this what it is? Spoiled brat playing pretend while adults pay her bills. Mom jumped in. Jake, she's your sister. We're supposed to support each other. Support goes both ways. What has she ever done to support me? She's never even acknowledged my success, let alone contributed anything to this family except bills. Brittany was crying now, manipulative kind where she could still talk clearly between sobs. I can't believe you're attacking me like this. All I've ever wanted was for my family to believe in me. You got lucky with your business, but that doesn't make you better than me. Lucky? Lucky? I worked 80-hour weeks for 7 years while you took selfies and spent other people's money. Belief doesn't pay bills, Brittany. Results do. That's when Chad made his fatal mistake. Dude, you need to check your privilege. Not everyone can just inherit business and call themselves successful. Some of us have to be creative and innovative. I stood up. Inherit? Inherit? I worked 80-hour weeks for 7 years to build my business. I paid my own way through college while your girlfriend racked up $250,000 in debt for useless degree. Don't you dare talk to me about privilege. Argument devolved from there. Voices raised, old grievances aired, lines crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. Dad accused me of forgetting my family now that I had money. Mom cried about how I was tearing family apart over petty jealousy. It ended with me walking out and not speaking to any of them for 3 months. That's when I got certified letter. My own family was suing me for $400,000, claiming I had unfairly benefited from family resources, and owed Brittany compensation for lost opportunities caused by my refusal to provide reasonable family support. Lawsuit alleged that by not investing in Brittany's business ventures, I had caused irreparable harm to her potential earnings, and that my success created implied obligation to support her endeavors. They actually argued that because we grew up in same household, my success was partially due to family investment and should be shared equally. Never mind that I'd been working and supporting myself since 16, while she'd been supported entirely by family money. It was complete nonsense, but it was also real. They actually filed papers, in court, against their own son and brother. I hired best attorney I could find and prepared for war. Lawsuit discovery process was brutal, but also enlightening. My lawyer was Shark, who specialized in business litigation. When she reviewed their filing, she literally laughed. Jake, This is one of weakest cases I've ever seen. They have no legal basis for any of these claims, but we're going to destroy them anyway. During depositions, truth about my family's finances came out. It was worse than I'd imagined. My parents had blown through their entire retirement savings funding Brittany's lifestyle. They'd taken out second mortgage on their house worth $45,000. Dad had cashed out his 401k early, paying massive penalties and taxes that cost them additional $8,000. They owed $85,000 in credit card debt across 12 different cards, all for Brittany's career. Numbers were staggering. Over 8 years, they'd spent $340,000 on her college, $265,000, living expenses, $48,000, equipment, $12,000, travel, $8,000, photo shoots, $4,000, courses, $2,500, and various schemes, $500. Her total earnings from influencing, $3,200. That's 99.1% loss rate for those keeping track. But best part was Brittany's deposition. My lawyer tore her apart. Miss Collins, you claim my client's refusal to fund your YouTube channel cost you $500,000 in potential earnings. What market research did you conduct to arrive at that figure? I don't need market research. I know my worth. Based on what? Your current income from social media is approximately $300 per year. How do you justify million-dollar valuation? You don't understand influencer space. Once you get right opportunity, everything explodes exponentially. I see. And how many of these explosions have you experienced in 7 years of social media work? I haven't had right support system. That's literally why we're here. It went on like this for 3 hours. Brittany couldn't answer basic questions about business plans, market analysis, or realistic projections. She kept falling back on, "You don't understand my industry," and with proper funding, anything is possible. When asked about her actual work schedule, she admitted to spending maybe 2 to 3 hours per day on content creation and couldn't explain what she did with rest of her time. When pressed about her engagement rates, she got defensive and claimed, "Quality followers matter more than quantity." Deposition transcripts read like comedy sketch. Meanwhile, my financial records told different story. 7 years of consistent growth, satisfied clients, repeat business, and steady expansion. I had $380,000 in business assets, $150,000 in personal savings, and zero debt except my business loan, which was ahead of payment schedule. Everything I'd built was documented, legitimate, and earned through actual work. Most damaging revelation came when my lawyer uncovered Brittany and Chad's real plan. They'd been researching my business assets and had basically planned to use any money I gave them as down payment on house, then flip it and pocket profit. Their YouTube channel was just cover story. They wanted free money to play real estate investor with zero knowledge or experience. Chad had been watching house flipping shows and convinced Brittany they could make easy money, buying, renovating, and selling houses. When this came out during Chad's deposition, he tried to play it off as diversifying our investment portfolio and building multiple revenue streams. My lawyer asked him to define investment portfolio. His answer, like having different ways to make money and stuff. These people wanted to sue me for $400,000, and their financial mastermind couldn't define basic investment terms. Chad's deposition was train wreck. When asked about his business experience, he listed crypto trading, lost $15,000 of his parents' money, drop shipping, made $200 in 6 months, and affiliate marketing, earned $50 total. His longest job was 3 months at cell phone store before getting fired for poor attendance. By time discovery wrapped up, we had them dead to rights. Frivolous lawsuit, no legal basis, clear pattern of financial irresponsibility, and evidence of attempted fraud. But my lawyer had better idea than just winning. Jake, they've destroyed their financial lives trying to support Brittany's delusions. They're about to lose their house, their credit is ruined, and they have no retirement savings. What if we don't just beat them in court? What if we make them pay for wasting everyone's time? She filed countersuit for malicious prosecution, legal fees, and damages to my business reputation. We demanded $150,000 plus attorney's fees. Trial lasted 3 days and was everything I'd hoped for. My lawyer presented our case like documentary on financial stupidity and entitled behavior. When Brittany took stand, it was beautiful. My lawyer had prepared perfectly. Miss Collins, you've testified that your brother owes you financial support. What legal basis do you have for this claim? Family should help family. He has money, and I need help with my business. I see. Are you familiar with legal concept of consideration in contract law? No. Do you understand difference between gift and loan? What? Miss Collins, have you ever taken business law class? I studied digital media. That's not what I asked. Have you studied any law, accounting, or business management? I don't need classes to understand business. I'm naturally entrepreneurial. Judge was taking notes and trying not to laugh. When Chad took stand, somehow it got worse. Mr. Peterson, you encouraged Miss Collins to pursue this lawsuit? What legal experience do you have? I watch a lot of legal shows. I swear, that was his actual answer. And what business experience do you have? I've been involved in several ventures. What were your profits from these ventures? It's not about immediate profits. It's about building long-term value. Mr. Peterson, yes or no? Have you ever turned profit from any business venture? Long pause. Not yet, but thank you, that's all. Judge didn't even deliberate. He dismissed their case immediately and granted our countersuit in full. I've been on bench for 18 years, Judge Morrison said. This is one of most frivolous lawsuits I've ever seen. Plaintiffs have presented no legal basis for their claims and have clearly filed this action in bad faith. He ordered them to pay $125,000 in damages plus all my legal fees. Another $47,000. They had 30 days to pay or face asset seizure. As we left courthouse, Brittany was crying and Chad was ranting about corrupt judges and system being rigged against entrepreneurs. My parents looked like they'd aged 10 years. Within 2 weeks of judgment, reality hit my family like freight train. They couldn't pay $172,000 they owed me. Not even close. My lawyer started asset seizure proceedings. We put liens on their house, their cars, Dad's tools, anything of value. That's when begging started. Dad tried tough guy approach initially, then broke down completely. Jake, please. We're going to lose everything. We made mistake, okay? We know that now. But we're still your parents. Parents don't sue their children, I replied. You made your choice. Most pathetic calls came from Brittany. First, anger. You're destroying family over money. Then, manipulation. Jake, I've learned my lesson. I'm going to get real job and change my life. Then, desperate bargaining. What if I worked for your company? You could garnish my wages directly. Finally, complete breakdown. Jake, please. Chad left me when he found out about money. I have nothing. Mom and Dad might have to declare bankruptcy. You're literally destroying our entire family. Funny thing was, she still didn't get it. Even while begging me for mercy, she couldn't acknowledge what she'd done wrong. 3 months after judgment, they defaulted on payment. My lawyer moved to seize their assets. House went up for auction. Dad's truck got repossessed. They had to move into a 2-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town. Dad got fired from dealership when they found out about wage garnishment. Mom had to take full-time job at call center for $12 an hour. Brittany moved in with them and got job at Target. Her social media career died overnight when she couldn't afford to maintain her image. Final call came from Dad 6 months later. He'd aged 20 years and sounded completely broken. Jake, I know you hate us. I know we messed up beyond repair. But your mother is having health problems, and we can't afford her medications. I'm not asking you to forgive us. I'm asking you to have mercy. For first time since this started, I felt something. Not sympathy. They'd earned every bit of their suffering. But I felt complete. They'd destroyed themselves pursuing fantasy that they deserved my success. They'd chosen Brittany's delusions over reality, entitlement over responsibility, lawsuits over family. And they'd lost everything. I told Dad I'd think about it and hung up. 3 days later, I had my lawyer draft offer. I'd forgive remaining debt, about $140,000 under specific conditions. 1. Brittany had to publicly post video acknowledging that her influencer career was failure and that she'd been supported by family money for 8 years while producing nothing of value. 2. My parents had to write and sign detailed letter acknowledging their favoritism, their poor financial decisions, and their responsibility for lawsuit. 3. All 3 had to agree to 0 contact with me for 5 years minimum. 4. If any of them ever spoke publicly about me or contacted me during that period, full debt would be reinstated immediately. They agreed within hours. Brittany's confession video was beautiful. No makeup, no filters, just broken 26-year-old admitting she'd wasted years of her life and hundreds of thousands of dollars chasing fantasy. She looked exactly like what she was. Failed wannabe influencer working retail and living with her parents. Video got more views than anything she'd ever posted. Comments were brutal but fair. My parents' letter was 4 pages of acknowledgement about their failures. They admitted favoritism, poor decisions, financial irresponsibility, and frivolous lawsuit. Reading it felt like getting apology I'd needed for 20 years. When my lawyer delivered debt forgiveness papers, I felt weight of 15 years finally lift off my shoulders. I was free. My business was thriving. My family couldn't hurt me anymore.